Okay, so I think we can get started. So good morning, good evening, wherever you may be. Thank you for attending today's webinar. Prabhu Patil and Srinath will be presenting their Lift and Shift your CAD PLM application to the cloud webinar, which will be covering some very intriguing topics for us today. We ask that you please keep your microphones muted and direct any questions you have to the conversation button, which is located on the bottom of your screen, right next to the hand icon. And now, without further ado, Prabhu will begin his presentation.
Okay, good morning, everybody. This is Prabhu Patel. I'm founder and CEO of Prolim Global Corporation. About our company, our vision is apply thought leadership to help our customers build innovative products by leveraging technology. Today, we'll be talking about the technologies about cloud migration and cloud solutions. So agenda for today, there are 5 items which are well packed. And joining with me are my colleagues, Srinath Koppa, as well as Arun Ganeshan. The 5 topics: 1, cloud strategy and benefits; 2, business drivers, why we need to go to cloud; number 3, migrating of these clouds options for CX and PLM applications. Then we have a demo on Teamcenter and Cloud. And the last about number 5, managed services. So about Prolim. Prolim is founded in 2005 in Farmington Hills, Michigan. That's in Detroit. In June, we celebrated 15 years of our success. We have 9 global offices, and we have 400 plus customers, and we have received 27 awards so far. Next slide. So Prolim is aligned with 3 verticals. One is the PLM, where we focused heavily on CAD, CAM, CAE, and PLM solutions. That's Prolim PLM. Number 2, IoT. That's where we have built an applications on AWS IoT platform as well as MindSphere. And the third one is about IT consulting, IT application development, mobile, and so on and so forth. So this cloud strategy and benefits, you all experienced the current COVID situation. Cloud is not wish list anymore. It is a necessity. It is the essential. So why cloud? You all know about it. There are 4 main drivers: increase reliability, reduce overhead, lower your cost, and instant global access. If you see the research below that diagram here at the bottom left corner, according to IDC, this is done in 2018, but it is still relevant today. Lots of applications have been either thinking of moving to, or already developed, migrated, or already developed an adoption plan. With the COVID-19 as well as the upcoming 5G rollout, this acceleration will increase significantly. On the right-hand side, if you see that there is a combining PLM and the cloud, and if you look at all this product development, either new product introduction or enhancing the existing portfolio of products, the 4 things available, and the whole concept is design anywhere and build anywhere. Similarly, you have designers, engineers, manufacturing, and all those things globally. Hence, you need to have access anywhere, anytime, on any device. Number 2, adopt cutting edge technology. As we are going into it, we are applying more and more deep learning, machine learning, and artificial intelligence to improve this customer experience and adding value to the products customers are making. Number 3, cost. Cost is very, very essential in this economic downturn. And the last one is reduce the overall information technology resource needs in terms of compute power, in terms of the support, and so on. Continuing on the drivers, as you can see, there are 8 drivers here. Cost reduction. There is typically around 30% will be a cost reduction by going from on-prem to cloud. There are so various studies, various researchers are available, and you can compute. We have a calculators which can show you, demonstrate you how you can reduce your cost. The agility and staff productivity, because it's instantly available globally, it's very you can see realize your productivity. Improved security and operational resilience, since there is a standardized framework and it's been managed by 24/7 by the cloud providers, as well as a tighter encryption, you will have better security than on devices. Hardware and software end of life, you don't need to worry about your operating system, whether increasing capacity, reducing your capacity, changing the hardware. This is managed by cloud provider, hence you don't need to worry about it. And the next one is the data center consolidation. When we are working with lots of customers, they expand from different geographies and then ended up having multiple instances, multiple data centers. They need to worry about a lot. Here, it's the cloud provider will take care of it. Then digital transformation, everything is all about digital transformation, digital thread. How do you apply that? You need lots of different technologies and tools and networking, and this cloud migration will help you. A global expansion we talked about, you can instantly available in all continents. And the new technology applying AI, ML, and IoT. These are the 8 drivers. So question always comes is, what is a cost reduction? Typically, if you look at on the left-hand side of the box, typical IT total cost of ownership comparison, if you on-premise and the lift and shift. If you just do the lift and shift from what you had on your premise to the cloud, you may save 10 to 20% reduction in your cost, but that's not the real cost reduction. But if you go to the extreme right, there is a vertical bar. This is where truly optimized cost. So in order to get there from there, it's not just lift and shift, but you continue to apply this cost optimizations. There are 5 steps that we outline here for particularly CAD CAM, CAE, and PLM space. The first one is compute optimized. Typically, the CAE applications requires a heavy computing power, and there may be projects you may be running all these algorithms. You can instantly increase your computing power for that particular period. You don't need to buy the high-end servers. You can increase it, you can shut it down, and you can extend that. 2, memory. For example, Amazon has a great S3 that is a simple storage service. With that, you can increase your computing memory power by whenever you are doing high-end programs like configuration management, BOM management, or visualization where you need higher memory, you can increase for those reasons. Number 3, accelerated optimized. As you know, every CAD tool, every PLM tool, visualization tool are applying this AI and machine learning. Hence, you need a highly accelerated solutions to support your all these new initiatives, the AV, virtual reality, and so on. Number 4, storage optimized. It's very ideal for all your databases, RDC, relational database services. And number 5, general purpose. This is ideal for engineers working on non-CX or web tier PLM, like for example, your buyers, your finance team, and so on and so forth. Next slide. So if you look at, we'll introduce a little bit about AWS. The Amazon AWS is a very scalable platform. It has 77 available zones and growing. The AWS is most secure, extensive, and reliable cloud platform offering 175 fully featured services. When I say fully featured, earlier I mentioned a couple of them. One is the EC2, which is the elastic cloud computing. You can increase your elasticity. S3, that is a simple storage service. VPC, virtual private cloud, and RDC, relational data services. So let's continue to grow, and with a single click of a button, you can extend your applications throughout the world, whether you're working in North America, South America, Australia, New Zealand, and Asia Pacific. with a single-digit millisecond latency. And as I said, they have 77 available zones. So available zones means that it's a logical data center in a region with a redundancy built in. If something goes down, there is another server takes over, and redundant power supply, network, and connectivity. They're all, each one is isolated so that you are secured and up and running instantly from one zone to another zone. Next slide. So now I would be handing off to my colleague Srinath, who will be continuing this presentation on different strategies of cloud migration for CX and PLM. Srinath?
Yeah, thanks, Prabhu. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. So I think we saw the I would say the foundation set for the discussion today, the presentation. So now we now saw why cloud is important. We will look at what are the various options that are available for you to migrate to the cloud, right? Because most of you are probably working on an on-premise setup, and how do we get there from on-prem to a cloud platform? So there are three levels here primarily. We are purely talking from a product development perspective. Okay, we're talking about applications that engineers use day in and day out. So the first step is what we call as the hybrid cloud, where your PLM server, the application server, is sitting on the cloud, whereas your volume server, which contains the CAD data and your cache, if you have multiple sites, or connectivity to that volume server, and your CAD workstations are all on-prem. All right, that is one way of looking at it. Then the middle one talks about not just having the application server, but also the volume server on the cloud. And then you can have various cache servers on-prem if you have multiple sites, and your workstations could be on-prem as well. The third one towards the right is more cloud native, which is 100% cloud native, which means that your PLM server is on the cloud, your volume server is also on the cloud, and your CAD applications or your CAE, all the engineering applications are also on the cloud, but delivered through a browser. Okay, so we will talk about these now just in a moment. Okay, so essentially there are, again, moving these applications to a cloud system. So first of all, we look at desktop as a service, right, where end users can get the entire desktop on a browser, and we will look at how the browser will get where all the applications, whether it is a design application, an engineering application, a mathematical application, all these things can be streamed to a browser. And the advantage you get is you can scale without any infrastructure. So the end user would be using what we call as a simple browser. It could be a Firefox, Chrome, it could be your Microsoft browser, it could be anything, just a browser. And it could be a Chromebook, a netbook, or what we call as a low-end device, even a tablet, right? And all the processing can happen remotely in the cloud. And it can be integrated with any of your IT applications. So specifically, Teamcenter PLM is very well optimized for Amazon Cloud. We can get into details later during the Q&A, but essentially, Teamcenter has organized itself. The framework of Teamcenter, the architecture has been optimized for use on Amazon or AWS Cloud. Similarly, your applications, your heavy applications, which are typically your design and engineering applications, are now able to be, can be streamed over the cloud to your browser. We have seen, I mean, most of you know how you can watch movies on Netflix or whatever content provider you have, right? So similar to that, your entire CAD application or your CAE application can be streamed on the cloud through this AppStream service. And this becomes even more easier with faster bandwidth, like what Prabhu talked about with 5G getting launched later next year. And AppStream is very easy to install. So typically we'll talk about some of these. So essentially the application gets streamed over the browser. You choose what applications you want to give to a particular user, choose the processing power, choose the memory size, and so on. So for example, if let's say today the user is focused more on CAE analysis, then you give a higher CPU power to the user. Whereas let's say the user is doing more BOM configuration, then you choose more memory, right? So it's very easy to set it up, and it can be leveraged to by the end user. So we'll talk about this when we get to the Q&A if we have questions on the architecture, but at a very high level, on the right side is your Teamcenter virtual private client, and then in the middle is your streaming service, and Teamcenter gets streamed to the end user using this architecture. Okay, so let's jump into the demos as to how this can be done. So the first one I'm going to talk about is how AppStream can be used. Right, which is the so this is the screen that your administrator would have, where all the users who are there can be assigned various types of configurations. Right. So in this case, there are a few configurations that can be assigned, and once it's assigned, then the end user will get an email saying that, hey, I have this particular thing assigned, right? And now the end user can they will get an email, and the end user can then click on this login page, right? And then access the desktop or the set of applications, right? So just entering the credentials there, and you will see that the end user will get access to AppStream. So it's quite simple, okay? And the advantage now the end user has is they can choose from the set of applications whether they want to run they want to get into the desktop, which is like any standard desktop. Think of this like remote desktop, or many of you probably would have used Citrix or something similar to that, right? So you can access the desktop, or you can access any of these clients, right? I could use SimCenter or NX or Teamcenter. I can choose what I want, right? So in this case, the user is accessing the desktop, and you can see that. So let me just pause it here. So you can see that this is the AppStream toolbar, which comes on the browser, and then you have the desktop, which is right there. And now the user can open any application that they want, right? So very quickly, let's access the browser, and we will see that the user can type in the URL for the Teamcenter, and you have, boom, Teamcenter up and running, right? Or let's say the user wants to create an Office document, so they can open Microsoft Word, and it's right there on the screen. So what we are doing is we are streaming these applications from the cloud to the end browser. So the end browser is not using any of the system CPU or GPU. It's just the browser that is being used, right? Now let's look at how an engineering application can be used. So we are looking at NX or SimCenter in this case. So you can see that you open the file. So you have the standard interface of your CAD tool or your CE tool, right? So your typical part navigator, your display, all those are right there. And then if, let's say, the user is creating a mesh, then you can open the meshing tool, and you can pick what components you want to mesh. And that's how you would, I mean, the typical day in the life of a end application user, where they would start using this on a, oops, let me just, yeah, so here is the meshing that's going on. And we can see that once the mesh is complete, the user can then provide the various constraints, loading conditions, or whatever it is. I mean, this is not a demonstration of the engineering activity, but this is more of showing you how the end user can access the engineering tool or the design tool over a web browser and do their daily activities of doing design and engineering, right? So in this case, now you're able to look at the solving was done, and now you're able to look at the results using the same browser. Okay, and the tool is actually being streamed. Again, I'm mentioning it again. The tool is being streamed from the cloud to the browser, and the user is able to use this. And now technology, or AWS has improved its technology so that there is hardly any latency between the user making some mouse movements to the model rotating and so on. Okay, so this is, so you can now see that The analysis can be visualized. And now let's move to the next demo, which is about moving to a Teamcenter, which is being streamed on the cloud. So this is again a typical Teamcenter Active Workspace login. The user can open an assembly, look at essentially the various items in an assembly, look at the 3D visualization. You can see that rotation, panning, zooming, everything is pretty much streamed live. There is no lag here, right? And you can also open a part instead of an assembly, and you can do some very basic things that typically you would do when you open a part, like measuring between 2 points in a part and looking at what the measurement is. Right? So all those can be done as effectively as you would use, right? And then you can look at what are the, where is it in the workflow, who are the various participants in this. So your typical PLM, PDM tasks can be done on the browser, looking at where it is being used, who's using it, and so on. So you can open the assembly or the part, and then you can send it, you can submit it to a workflow. In this case, they are releasing it for design, and the user can then go ahead, review the 3D file, and release it. All right, so the design is being completed, and the user has released it. Now it goes to the manager. The manager can go review it and say that the design is complete, or if there's any corrections to be made, they can reject the workflow or approve the workflow. So your typical PLM, PDM tasks are what happens. And you can see that all your search, everything, Active Workspace is as it is. There's no difference from how you use it on a regular browser. And in this case, you're opening a document, which is essentially in an Office document, a Word document that's integrated with Teamcenter. And you can see that the Teamcenter tab is right there in the Office document. And you can create a new workflow here, or you can do some markups. So all those things are possible with the Office integration with Active Workspace. And you can see that it's pretty much as it is, as you would use it on your regular desktop. Right, so this was a quick demonstration of how essentially cloud enables you to not focus on all the hardware or the software. So what it does is this entire lift and shift to the cloud that we're talking about gives you a platform to focus on your product development rather than having distractions on which application to use, who wants the application, what is the operating system, where is the data being stored, what, any middlewares to integrate with your ERP or with your CRM, what type of servers are the servers, are basically the current on-prem servers, is there a bottleneck, is there a storage issue, or I mean all those things, right, which are in a typical way I would call it as a distraction. You don't have to think about it so much, and instead you focus on your products so that it can be developed faster and it can be sent to manufacturing, right? And your distractions are there to a minimum. So that is what we mean by moving to the cloud. And where Prolim comes is Prolim is, again, a select partner for AWS and a value-added reseller for Siemens, right? So we can look at taking the hardware infrastructure of AWS, having the Siemens platforms and the Siemens applications on top of it completely optimized, and we can provide that as a managed services. Right? So this is the whole value that Prolim brings to your organization. So with this, I would like to hand it over to Arun, my colleague, who would then talk through on what managed services is all about and what are the various options available.
Thank you, Srinath. I hope I'm audible and clear. So primarily, the whole offering on Teamcenter on Cloud, there could be two kind of flavors over here. One is some of you may be already using Teamcenter either from your data center, which is outsourced to a third party, or it could be on your own premises, which is managed by your own internal IT. So in either case, the CX platform or the PLM platform needs to be moved into the cloud, which is all coming under the umbrella of migration services, which we'll talk about a little bit. And second one is, if you have not explored your PLM journey, we have helped many customers to come up to start the journey within a week or two with the Teamcenter Rapid Start kind of pre-configured solutions. So many of them have done in the past on with their own premises, but the same thing can be done, replicated as well on the cloud to deploy a new instance within a very short by like 1 to 2 weeks. And in either case, whether it is an existing instance of a PLM or it is a newly set up PLM, it needs to be managed effectively. So our expertise starts from nurturing the whole PLM and also taking the services till the end of the life of the application for the business. So here I'll talk quickly about the migration services. So this is a different kind of a journey, and this would actually require understanding the footprint of what is your current PLM, how is it being used, how are the users spread across different locations, the engineers, the designers, and then the various stakeholders. And then based on that, we would be doing a planning and strategy in terms of how do you move to the cloud. So the second part is pretty interesting. This would actually kind of determine how much, in terms of the effort and the time involved in building the whole services moving from the on-premises to the cloud. It could be as simple as 2 weeks, it could be as complex as 6 months. If it is a multi-site environment with, let's say, there are multiple design centers located across the globe. And the last part is basically we always prefer for large migrations a very phased approach where we go through each cycle of implementations, stabilize, mature, then go for the next cycle, and then eventually bring it to as we saw in the earlier slide, to a truly optimized cloud native solution. So these are our offerings under the migration, where we help various customers to move their platform of PLM as well as CAX from on-premises as well as from their various data centers to the cloud. Now, with the Teamcenter on the cloud and the CAX in the cloud, it essentially is the core of the application on which the business is running. So under this application services, under the managed services part of it, what we provide is the end-to-end support of taking care of the up and running of the application, which means we take care of the basic support like a level 1 support, which is ensuring proper connectivity and users, login and admins kind of stuff, to a level 2, level 3 support, which could be as advanced as making sure the right configurations, the right kind of system software, everything is taken care. So all will be managed by this managed services group, who will take care of the up and running and high availability of this particular applications that will be on the cloud. And not only that, as an extension, as every business never stays as it is, they always keep growing. There'll be always continuous changes, improvements, and additions to the features. So that will also be taken care by this particular application managed services group, who also will be constantly working with the business group in making sure that there are periodic review of the requirements, and then they also constantly go through alignment with how the business is moving. All this will be managed through an ITL based tool where everything is transparent and visible to both sides, the users, the stakeholders, as well as the support partner groups. And these services can be provided on an SLA basis. And here we have various offerings on the SLAs. It could be as critical as something like that needs to be taken care in 1 hour, to a critical incident that can be taken care in 4 hours. We have various offerings over here. And the most other stuff is a proactive approach of application monitoring, where irrespective of business raising any issues, we constantly keep monitoring whether the applications which are designed for a certain usage are having the right kind of environment to work with. That's application monitoring. And also we are a PLM company which has been providing services for various customers across the globe. So we can provide 8x5 or 24x7 or 16x kind of support for these PLM applications across the globe. So the most important element of the application is the infrastructure. So any application for that matter, enterprise applications, they are running are on top of an infrastructure and environment. So when it comes to the complexity of the environment, PLM or a CAX, they all have their own unique environmental layers, like an application business layer, a file server where all the data is stored, or it could be the web layer, which is interfacing with the browsers. So all these environments would also be managed again by the same one group, which will be taking care of the respective specificalities and the requirements of those environments. The second most important aspect is single tenant. So what we mean by single tenant is you're going to have a dedicated instance which will be privately hosted for you, which means all your policies, your requirements, your configurations specific to your organizational policies, specific to your organizational business process could be configured and created in this single instance, which will not be shared with any other customer. So your data, your policies, your configurations, everything remains private and unique to your own usage. And these again can be accessed in multiple different ways. One, you can go through a public IP configuration, or you want to have a high security, high speed, you can go for a direct VPN. Or if you just want a high security alone, you can go for a AWS VPN. So these are various connection options available through which you can actually connect from your workplace to the CX platform or the Teamcenter platform on the cloud. And the same group also takes care of constant backup of the data weekly and daily, and that's how we will be aligning with your IT policy, whatever is currently being followed on premises or data center. And as I said, monitoring of these systems are very important in terms of making sure some of these are very resource intensive. Ensuring those resources are constantly available for the up and running, for the high availability of these applications will be taken care of by this group. And also making sure as the technology is changing and the technology is also taken over by the new set of technologies, the environment is constantly upgraded to align with the application movement, to align with the industry changes and stuff. And last but not the least is the most important part, the security. So the services on the cloud on AWS, it aligns with various industry standards like HIPAA standard, FIPS, ISO, ITAR standards. So you can pick what kind of security layer that you want, and according to your customer needs that you need to align with, or according to your organizational or your regional requirements that you need to align with. So in a nutshell, what this kind of exemplifies is that this is a one-stop shop over here. So when it comes to managed services, whether it is an operational support providing 16/5 or 24/7, or it is taking care of the environment up and running, or in making sure those systems are up and aligned with the latest of the greatest of the software that keeps releasing from your Microsofts and from your Oracles and your SQLs, everything will be taken care under this constant proactive monitoring and ensuring that 99.99% kind of operational support so that this business is never down. Providing SLA-based services for the various critical factors, level 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of severity, and also, as I said, the constant upgrading of the software to align with the business changes with respect to the business growth, business process changes, and mergers and acquisitions leads to various constant application upgrades. So all that will be taken care of this particular managed services, which will be a complete one-stop shop for you, behind which there are various expert groups really working behind. But you would be opaque to all those things, and all that you gave us is the managed services. And as I said, security is again an element which you can pick up, and we also can help you to move from a transformation of the current state of PLM to a next level of PLM, which is all coming under solution management. So all that can be taken care from the cloud without having any footprint in your local environment. Thank you. And with that, I think we are kind of done with our overview of what is cloud and how we can provide the PLM services on the cloud and how we can as well manage